right. We'll call that a false start. Let's try again. Let's begin with your name again and how long you've been an artist.
My name is David Dowler, and I think reassessing the situation, I've been an artist all my life. I started working with metal about 10 years ago. Before that, I had a career at Steuben Glass, designing production glass and making sculpture. Before that, I was just some kid in grade school who generally was accused of being talented far beyond his grade average, which got me into trouble more than once. All the teachers thought I had my father make my little projects that I turned in. And they never quite believed that I had any talent, you know. My father was an architect. His father was an architect, so I'm well versed in the arts.
Fantastic. So you said you worked at Steuben for quite a period of time as a designer. Is there anything while you were there that just kind of stands out in your mind that was some of your favorite designs?
Oh, I produced about 5 shows of sculpture. I would put them amongst my achievements. I designed probably 200 pieces of production glass. I've been out of there for 10 years at least. I feel somewhat close to some of the designs, but a favorite, not really. I worked there for all in all about 34 years, I think. So it's a long time to put together.
Indeed.
I will say that I am glad I'm out of glass, and my foray into metal was in fact done to put some distance between me and glass.
Is there similarities, or it was just a complete divorce from what you had been doing before?
Well, it was a pretty complete divorce. My first job and my sort of second major in college was silversmithing. And my first job was as a silversmith for a company in Baltimore. So I did have a kind of basic background of metalworking.
Talk a little bit about the work that you're presenting here at 171. What is some of the inspiration, especially there's 2 pieces behind you that are on pedestals that kind of look like colorful clouds. Can you tell us a little bit about the design process behind those?
You're right, they are colorful clouds, but particularly the one directly behind me. I think artists should be able to talk about their work, and it's not particularly explanation. My idea about it is that I would simply introduce the work and say, sculpture, these are people, this is sculpture. That's the way I look at it. These freestanding pieces, the 2 particularly behind me, they can be approached by any angle. But what I think should be done when you approach one of these sculptures, you should understand that you have to walk all the way around it several times, and because the sculpture will be telling you something at every angle that you go around the piece. It's sort of like it's sort of like body language. You see somebody approaching you, and you make judgments about that person because their body language is telling you something. It's the same with sculpture. You approach it on a circular basis until you've discovered something about it.
Tell us the title of those two pieces, or?
The furthest one behind me is called Annotations, and the one directly behind me is called Between the Lines. The one directly behind me, you can see that it has two very pronounced lines on one side, and on the other side also a very pronounced line. The furthest one, it's called Annotations because it has short little like notes on its surface, like you were making a note in a book.
So actual writing, or?
No, just an abstract indication of a note.
And what drew you to the colors that you're using in this exhibition?
Well, I work in steel. It's my preferred medium is steel. It's commonly available. It's inexpensive. The trouble with it is, with steel, if you leave it natural, it's gray. If you let it rust, it's rust. And you can paint it. Although I admire painting very much, I am not a painter. So I use an industrial surface treatment for particularly steel, although it'll go on any metal. It's called powder coating. So, and there are a lot of colors available in this material. Not nearly as many as painting, where the colors are basically infinite, but there are a couple hundred colors in the palette for powder coating, and I choose colors that I think have a bite to them, or a kind of an edge, and if I work quite hard to find colors that work well together from this somewhat limited palette of colors for powder coat. It's an industrial process. It's most of these pieces in the show have been powder coated right across the street from here at Tobico. You may be noticed some of the pieces, particularly larger. I think you'll notice it on the Cloud series there. They all have a little hole drilled into one of the surfaces, and that's because the powder coating has to be suspended for the powder to go all around it. So it has to be hung from this little hole. People ask me, well, what's the hole for? Well, it's part of the process.
Not part of the design.
Not part of the design. No, I have to acquiesce to the process. The reason I try to stick to tabletop size is because it's something I can do myself. The weight of this stuff doesn't get overwhelming for me because I work alone, and I have to be able to handle these things pretty much by myself. If I have made a couple larger pieces, and I have had to send them out to people that can handle the weight particularly.
I mean, we've talked quite a bit about the tabletop sculptures, but you also, as can be seen behind you, have these hanging wall sculptures. Tell us a little bit about the series of sculptures directly behind you.
Yeah, that one, I don't remember the name of that one because I think we changed it at the last minute. I think it's called Rules of Nature. I think. Anyway, the title doesn't matter. The thing about the wall hung sculptures is that that space has been traditionally left to painting and drawing for display, and I just thought that why should all those painters and draftsmen have such a nice piece of real estate to show their work when I figure I can make use of the space myself as sculpture. If you approach one of these wall-hung sculptures, I would suggest you take 8 or so steps back and then walk directly towards it. And as you get closer, your peripheral vision will start to be encompassed by the sculpture. And I think that's important to me. The overall feeling of the sculpture, particularly this one behind me, I think it's joyous. I think it's a happy experience. I personally get a good deal of joy out of making these things, and I hope that it translates to the viewer, to people coming to see it. The joy, the happiness, whatever you want to call it, I hope it translates to people.
And then, because you have several of these kind of series, how do you start out to create a full series? Is it a single doodle or design that then you connect together? You draw things out, or how do you put together these series that you've got hanging here?
I do make sketches on paper, and they're actually, if you don't mind, they're usually very small, only about that tall. But I do, so I think there's 12 pieces in that sculpture behind me. So I did 30 little 2-inch sketches before I found ones that I felt worked together. And they work together to me because there is a little bit of random effect to them. And I find that, humorous. The most difficult thing about the 2-inch little sketches is that I have to scale them up. And it's hard from a little sketch, it's hard to scale up and maintain the same feeling about it, same feeling. So that's where my time goes on the wall sculptures, is scaling up.
How do you decide if your doodle is going to become a series or a standalone object on its own?
I start off thinking of the standalones as a separate issue. Because you can walk around the standalone pieces, that was important to me. I work with sheet metal, so it's limited in a way that it's sheet metal. But and I can cut it, I can bend it, I can weld it, but I still think it's most important that you walk around. I have no problem getting ideas. I have no problem with having an idea suddenly kind of fall into my head and pursuing that. I have no problem pursuing that. There's a piece in this show that happened that way. I just got an idea one day and thought I should pursue that one as much as possible. And the title of that piece is Going Bacterial. And it's over here. It's a one of a kind, kind of a non-series wall hanging piece.
We're thinking about the tabletop pieces and thinking about turning 2 dimensions into a 3-dimensional object.
Well, I would say that the cloud pieces, there's an abstract cloud form in each of them, and also each of them have a bit of geometry in it, a simple right angle or something. And I just think the title of those pieces are Measuring Clouds. So I think you need a reference point to measure a cloud, and that's why that bit of geometry is in there. It's like the Pythagorean theorem, or one of these kind of things that you learned in grade school.
A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
Yeah.
Still remember.
The title of the show is Objects and Outcomes. I don't have the little postcard. I would like a couple of the postcards to take home, by the way.
All right. Well, make sure you get some before you leave.
Anyway, the title of the show is Objects and Outcomes. I spend all my time thinking of objects, thinking about subjects, thinking about how to make them, and thinking about how they function in the world. So now I've kind of lost my thread there. I was going to say something really important, but I think about objects all the time, and I spend my time working on objects. The transition from thinking about objects to the outcome of that thinking is where the real magic happens, where the fun happens. That transition time of translating an idea to 3 dimensions is where the fun, where the joy is for me.
So this is on display in our Houghton Gallery at 171 Cedar Arts Center. It's on display now through January 8th for anybody who would like to see it. We just ask you to go to 171 Cedar Arts website to make a reservation due to restrictions from COVID-19. And thanks for watching. All right. I think we're good.